Hello, my name is Aaron Tyler. I'm going to be talking about the Spirit Empowered Church and Acts 2 model. Our outline for what I want to talk about is what is the Acts 2 model, 5 key functions of the Acts 2 model, which are connect, grow, serve, go, and worship. And I'll end with a few final thoughts. So, to begin, what is the Acts 2 model? It is a model that current churches can follow to replicate the early church in what the early church did that was successful and helped them grow and spread the gospel. The early church had thousands of salvations, baptisms in the Holy Spirit, mass spread of the gospel around the region. What they did was very effective, and there's a lot of things that they did that churches today can implement and use that will be very successful as well. It's about getting back to those basics of what the early church and what the church is supposed to be. In essence, it was discipleship at its finest. So the 5 functions which help create this model, starting off with connect, it is fellowship and evangelism. It is 2-part process, the vertical relationship you have with God, then that goes into the horizontal relationship you have with others. It is connecting with your friends, family, the local church, and around the world. It is people today love community. They want to be part of community. And in your church, you want to be able to connect with one another. And it starts with your relationship with God, and that spreads to your relationship with others. The early church was very good at connecting with one another. They discipled, they did life with one another, and so it was very effective, and that is what helped really make it grow. That leads to the next function of grow, spiritual growth. That is discipleship, growing in what your beliefs are, your behaviors, how you should act, and how do we as Christians grow to be more like Jesus. It is not just growing in numbers, but it's about growing in our spiritual life, our spiritual disciplines, what we believe, how we should act, how the way Jesus wants us to act. And that is rooted in discipleship, and that is one of the things that the early church did really well, and that is something that the church today needs to be doing effectively in order to help foster a place where there is spiritual growth. The evidence is in the early church. They did discipleship, and their numbers grew, and people were being saved every day. That leads us into serve. Are we actively serving in our church? We all have gifts and abilities. A good church develops its people's skills and allows them to flourish using those gifts. If there's no place for us to use our gifts, it is just coming to church, sitting in a pew, but being able to serve and use our gifts, which also is an act of worship, which we'll get into later, it gives you a sense of purpose, and you have another way of saying, like, skin in the game of you have a place that you can help now reach the other people that are coming to church. It all has a domino effect, and good leadership will dive into the individual person's gifts and abilities, be able to help them, make them grow and use those abilities. And we are all involved in ministry. It is all of us together reaching other people, spreading the gospel, and that all is rooted in, starts with serving. That leads us to go, evangelism aspect of connect, which was the first function, both locally in the community and around the world. The church needs to be outwardly focused, not just about who is in the building. Once you really have focused on the inward side, you now then need to be focused on the outward. You've empowered your people that are coming to your church, and now you're telling them to go, just like Jesus had his disciples. He then sent them and sent them out to reach other people, both in the local and around the world. The Great Commission is creating disciples in all areas of the world. Is helping, preparing, and equipping people to share their faith. That is a big part of spiritual growth. It's a big part of the early church. And that is one of the key aspects of a healthy church. The last function is worship. That is true, authentic worship, not just singing, but prayer, preaching, serving, to name a few, are all parts of worship. It is a focus on who God is. Sometimes worship can be just going through the motions, but it's really reflecting on who God is and who He is for us. And today there's a struggle of what that looks like. So those are the 5 key components of the early church in the Acts 2 model. It's not one function or the other. They're all need to be working together. The church needs to get back to these basics, fundamental truths that the early church had. It would see a huge change in the world. It's not just about getting people in and out of church, but about spiritual growth and allowing the Holy Spirit to move.